We have to have that picture of your kids with a laugh behind us. That's kind of like a trademark now. You know?
I like it.
Good evening. I am Christopher Balzano.
And off camera, I am Natalie Crist.
And welcome to Tripping on Legends Live. We're hoping to get some of these more frequently out there because I kind of have fun doing them.
Yeah, they're good times. Yeah.
A lot of times what happens is, and this is a great example of it, we'll be talking about something, whether we're on a trip or we're just kind of talking, and all of a sudden, it's usually you comes out with some like brilliant question, and I'm like, I could give you the answer to that, or we get more in depth with it on a live show. And so that sparks like, you know what, this is something that is a bigger issue, right? So here at Legend Trips, you know, we're all about, we go to a location and maybe we're talking about a thematic thing like witches, like we did a few weeks ago, and then ended up having that. If you haven't listened to episode 48, it's, I think, one of our best.
It's fantastic.
I think that we really hit like some really good issues with that and really good connections. And I really want to follow up on that one because I think there's so much. When I'm looking off camera, I'm looking at Natalie, just so you know. I'm not looking at something in the corner.
Stop looking at me.
Stop looking at me. I'm ugly. But then we have some other stuff that kind of pops up. So a few weeks ago now, if you remember, because I didn't remember, I found all this stuff that was printed out. And I'm like, why did I do all this stuff on Crybaby Bridges and Crybaby Lanes? And I couldn't remember why I had done it.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, yeah, we watched that movie. That was the urban legend, the movie that got banned and everything like that. Oh, yeah. So I'm like, well, can we really do a show? Because I feel like we've got like a few shows lined up before that. And I'm like, that would make a great live next week for us to explore that next week.
All right.
Or what have you. Except for there's a lot of research. So it would be a lot of you reading off of things because I can't memorize for shit. So we are, tonight we're going to talk about the ghostly message. You need to check it out, Miguel. Trust me. Tonight we're going to talk about the ghostly message, which is born out of a situation that happened with Natalie. Natalie, do you want to describe the situation?
No, you describe it.
Okay, so what she's basically saying is I'm going to describe it, and she's going to correct me as I go.
Okay.
Right? Is that what you're really kind of saying?
Which is normally how it goes. Yeah, exactly.
So a few weeks ago, probably about, a week ago? 2 weeks ago? Yeah, I think 2 weeks ago, because we had, because last week was Halloween, and we got like really messed up with the schedules. So about 2 weeks ago, Natalie was going to sleep.
I was sleeping.
She was sleeping. It was
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't look.
It was like 1 or 2 in the morning.
He's guessing.
We're not going to say 3 because 3, the witching hour. We don't want to go that far. But it was definitely, what's going on, Charles? Miss you, kiddo. Please keep posting pictures of your son, by the way. The most adorable kid, other than my own. And Natalie's.
Really?
So Natalie was sleeping and had been asleep. And a few weeks ago, her daughter had brought in this radio. And the radio was powered by batteries. Is it? Her
grandmother had purchased her a Bluetooth radio so she could play music from her phone anywhere. And it was battery powered, but it could also be charged. And this was like
charged like with like an iPhone plug or something like that?
Right. Okay. So it could also, it needed that, either a charger or batteries. It did not have batteries in it. So she was relying solely upon the charge in order to power it. And this was like a month ago. And I had it in my bedroom for a couple of weeks. It had lain there just unused.
Right.
And then...
So she wakes up one night to the sound of the radio on. So it's got to be loud enough that it woke her up.
Right.
Are you a pretty sound sleeper, would you say?
I think I'm a really sound sleeper.
Really sound sleeper.
A train could be rolling through the house and I wouldn't wake up.
So many jokes. So it was loud enough to wake her up. Now, Natalie's had all sorts of activity in her house, so it's not unusual that something weird and ghostly would happen. But what happened is that it was tuned to a station, which was a religious station. So for those of you guys who don't live here in Florida, pretty much every station before you get to like 94 is a religious show.
Right.
Like there's a lot of religious shows. So that's not unusual that a radio would pick up a radio, you know what I'm saying, that had been used for something else and not the radio, would have been way down on the dial to pick that up. However, the person who was on the phone was from Boston
area, yes.
Boston
Exactly.
area. And you could tell that because
the accent. And she had said that she was saying where she was from.
So you were awake enough to understand that, like, there was, to hear parts of the conversation.
I was very, very groggy. So I woke up and I was like, what is going on? And it didn't even hit me. Like, why is this radio that's been dead for weeks, that we had tried to turn on, like, oh, okay, well, the charge is low. We're going to have to remember to put that on the charger, and hadn't. It had just been sitting on my dresser for weeks, not charged, not being used. It was turned to the off position. It all of a sudden went off. I didn't even think about it because I had woken up just thinking about stopping the noise that was coming out of this.
Right. We wake up like that, and you're not.
Right.
But then you started to process it the next day, and and the automatic thing that came to her mind was, what does it mean?
Right, exactly.
Right. So
what message are you trying? Do I need to go to church? What's happening?
Okay. Right. So what happened was, I mean, for example, when the lights go flickering, or like when in the middle of an episode and the power goes out in the whole house, you think it's just like a sign of some kind of activity, or it's just some kind of activity.
Or they're scratching at the door.
Oftentimes when we are doing that, we think we're getting a message. Right. And so
otherwise, why else?
And that's kind of that was a spark, and that's kind of what we're talking about. That moment, or why we sometimes feel the need to feel as if activity is giving us some kind of message. So I'll give you 2 examples just to get the ball rolling for you guys, so you guys can see like where we're coming from. I'm not going to use names for different reasons for each of them. But we were contacted by someone who we know, and she had a picture of an orb, what she thought was a ghost, right? And it was a purple orb. Was it purple? Do you know what I'm talking about?
It was bright.
So you know the exact thing that I'm talking about.
Of course,
okay.
Yeah.
So it was a bright purple orb, and the way that it was on a boat. It was during the day. It was an unusual place. And this woman has had a lot of different paranormal activity throughout her life. And she automatically jumped to the fact that it might be her nephew, who had died recently. I believe it was a suicide, right? Am I getting that right?
I don't remember that,
okay.
Actually.
And he had loved fishing. He had loved fishing with her husband, and this was a picture that was taken on the boat. And she wanted to know how to communicate with him. Like, she felt like she was being given a message by this picture. She was looking for the ghostly message. What is the ghost trying to tell me?
Right.
And then today I was approached by someone who sent a video. If you are really into evidence...
Are we allowed to share the video?
Well, she doesn't really know what goes on. If you are really into evidence and you can analyze evidence, not just like you like to look at cool stuff, but like you can break it down, I would love to have other people get their eyes on this, because this is the most... How we doing, ma'am? This is the most compelling piece of evidence I've seen in a really long time.
Can I share a picture of it, like in the comments? Am I allowed to do that?
If you can't, a snapshot of it, if you can get a picture of one of the
parts.
parts.
Yeah, of course I can.
It is of... So I'm just going to give you the backstory really quick. She has a house in Key West, which is Ghost Central in Florida. A lot of activity going on. There's a lot of stuff going on. And she had her motion sensor camera go off. So she lives up here. She's got that monitored. The motion sensor went off and caught 35 seconds of video. So let's take a step back and imagine that she's not trying to fake me out. She's got no reason to. But there's other stuff I can't talk about associated with it that would be able to tell you that. And you see a figure walk in the back, and then you see three orbs of light come through. But it's during the day, and it's not infrared camera. And it's the way that it moves is not bug movement. Bug movement wouldn't be captured by that. So especially my tech friends, I would love to have some other people get their eyes on it to give possible explanations or what have you with this. That's that. So immediately she wanted me to know, or she wanted to know whether or not it was her son, who has been making contact, she feels, with her at their house here. He had a more recent connection to the house that this is happening in. She wanted to talk to me about messaging her son. She wanted to know if this was her son. And then she wanted to know, what is he trying to tell me by this? Do ghosts try to give us messages? And if so, why are they doing this? Why are they trying to connect? Now, I'm not a person who goes to psychics. I'm not a person who has contacted mediums. You have before.
Correct, I have.
So you feel, so let me ask you this, and this is, once again, this is open to you guys in the chat room too. Do you feel ghosts have messages for us?
Do I feel?
Right.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so when you go to a psychic, and I would love to get, I know that I have psychics who are my friends, psychics who are friends here, that are Facebook friends, that I don't maybe know personally, but then ones I do know personally. I would love to get feedback on this from you. If you are a medium who acts as a conduit between these things, what kind of message do you expect to get?
I think it depends with what intention you are.
Well, I'm asking you specifically. So imagine like the last time, I actually know the answer to this question, I'm pretty sure, but like when you went to the psychic the last time.
Okay. So
what was your intention in terms of messages, and why did you think
guidance.
The dead could offer us guidance that the living can't?
Why did I think the dead could offer
Why
us
can the
guidance?
dead offer us guidance that the living can't?
I think that they
that would
can
be an
see
excellent
more.
tweet to put out.
Okay, well.
No, I'm just saying, like, hypothetically.
I
Go ahead.
will. Shush.
All right,
Let me answer
remember
the
that.
frigging question.
All right, go ahead.
So I think that the dead can see all sides of the coin, for lack of a better phrase. So
Can I interrupt?
No, they can see from all different perspectives, where sometimes we as people get blinded by a certain situation. For example, I was seeking professional guidance. So more, I have this feeling, but what are your thoughts? And I think that we look to the people that were in our lives that we used as confidants that may have now since been passed, that have, they've lived longer.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
They have that wisdom.
So
now you interrupt. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is, do you think they have like divine knowledge? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you think they have like knowledge beyond, not just they can see perspective that you can't see because
like
you're too
time
close
doesn't
up,
exist.
but in other words, can they see your future? Do you
I
feel?
want to believe that. I'm not sure though.
Okay, so that's a question to you guys out there. Can ghosts see your future? Can they, whatever level of existence that they're on, whatever plane of existence they might be on, do they have that perspective of being able to see all? And then where does that end? Like, can they go see Jesus? Like hanging out, like changing water into wine?
I think
Like,
so.
can they see dinosaurs? Because if it's between seeing dinosaurs and helping you find your freaking keys, I am going with the dinosaurs. I'm sorry. So here's the thing, and here's the thing that I struggle with as what I do. I can't answer that question for you. I can't answer why someone is contacting you, right?
Right.
And I think that we've tried to do that as investigators. We try to do that, and we try to find like they're trying to tell us that it's warm or that you should be doing this or like. And I think that's a really hard thing to put on us, because if we can't talk to the dead, then we can't solve that problem for you. We can't ask them why they're doing something. So we're left with interpretation.
Okay.
But the more annoying thing is that 85% of people who approach me wanting to talk about ghosts that we don't approach ourselves want to have that conversation with me.
What do you mean?
Like, they want me to solve their ghostly message from. What is this meaning? What is the meaning of this? And I can take one of two paths. I can take like, well, here's the theoretical, or here's what I might think, and now I'm playing psychologist or psychiatrist or like analyst. Or I can just be like, I can't help you. And if I can't help you, then they walk away as if like, well, that guy is a ghostly fraud because he can't interpret what the flashing of the light 3 times at the exact moment of the anniversary of this means.
Right.
And I have a really hard time thinking that ghosts give us messages, because I think that the majority of ghosts are trying to get attention, and so there is no message. I don't think that they have any knowledge above what we have. Now,
well, wait a minute.
if it's your no, wait, no, if it's your wait, no, you stop. Now, if it's your if it's your grandfather, if it's your grandfather, your grandfather, I'll drag you onto the screen.
All right.
If it's your grandfather,
right,
and your grandfather loved you, and your grandfather was close to you, right,
Uh-huh.
and your grandfather always gave you good advice, like you were saying, the confidant,
right,
then maybe he has advice, but I don't think that advice is any more informed than it would be if he was alive giving you it.
I think it depends upon the type of person or ghost that you're talking to.
Okay.
I think that there's a difference. So there are spirits that are here, right, among us, that are responsible for hauntings that you can talk to.
Okay.
I think they're stuck on a plane.
Do you think that?
I do think
Okay.
that, yeah. I think they're stuck on a plane where they don't have interaction with other beings.
Okay.
Okay. I think that there are other people that have crossed over, per se, that do have interaction with other beings that may have divine wisdom.
So here's
and then
my.
there are spirit guides, which are a totally different ballpark.
Well, what's a spirit guide then?
What is a spirit guide?
What is a spirit guide?
I mean, I think it's an entity or a being or a spirit that.
Hold on. I'm with you, Miguel. I do the same thing. I try to get out of them what it means, because ultimately it's up to interpretation, right? Continue. Sorry.
So, I mean, in my opinion, a spirit guide is literally what that term says it is. I think it is somebody that does have divine wisdom.
So it's a person.
Or a spirit.
Well, it's a spirit of a person or a spirit of
spiritual entity.
That doesn't help me.
Why doesn't it help you?
Because that's sort of undefinable. Like that a spirit guide is. Why does it have to be
definable what it is that's helping you?
Because it's your theory, so you should be saying like, okay, is it this or is it this?
It's a dinosaur, actually.
It's a dinosaur.
It is the spirit of a dinosaur.
It's a dinosaur that I'm watching instead of, and so we follow the signs, right? Like that's our big.
Well, right, and
mantra.
If you're saying
like if we're gonna get T-shirts, bring in T-shirts that say, "I'm glad you asked. Follow the signs."
Right. So wait a minute, time out. Because if you don't believe in divine wisdom, then well, how are there signs? There have to be signs. There has to be somebody giving you those signs.
I didn't say I didn't believe in divine wisdom.
Okay, then
you said a ghost, and I'm saying that I don't think that a ghost. I can't say that a ghost has that kind of knowledge.
So what is it that does have that knowledge?
I think
Stop.
So I'm gonna give the great paranormal catch-all that is so non-committal to any kind of true spirituality, which is to say it is an elemental.
Okay.
So
what does that mean?
It's elemental. An elemental is something in nature that is
nature has the
human, not.
So nature has the
closest thing you could say
to see the future.
Imagine elemental is.
So nature has the ability to see the future. Is what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, because I'm a firm believer in metaphysics. I'm a firm believer in that, like, we view our life one moment at a time. But if we could take a step back, we would gain the wisdom of our entire life and know how things, the cause and effect that made things. But I think that's ever changing. But I don't want to get too much into philosophy of like life.
Okay.
But that's like how I believe in that. Like I don't believe in fate, but I believe in perspective.
But how can you not believe in fate if you believe in signs?
Because I think
signs are literally pointing to your fate.
We've talked about this before, and I think we've talked about on the show that my true belief is that there are, I'm going to call them guardian angels or helpful elementals, although I do think they could be human. They can be human,
Okay.
Who point us in the right direction.
Okay.
Right? Who literally whisper in our ears and show us, put things in front of us that allow us to make the right decision. Mm-hmm. Right? They allow us to make the right decision. Whether we take or not, that's our free will.
Okay, so you would maybe classify that as a spirit guide? Yes?
That's what I just said.
Right.
I said spirit guide, elemental helper, guardian angel, whatever you want to like.
But the spirit guide is not necessarily a spirit. It's a tree that's long since passed.
A tree?
I'm just saying, you're saying an elemental. Like
elemental doesn't mean it has something to do
mean?
with nature. It's a spirit.
It's a spirit.
It's an angel.
So why is this?
Is that easier for you to understand if I just call it an angel rather than elemental?
Sure, it does. And I think it helps people digest it a little bit better too. An elemental is such a broad term.
It is. That's why I use it. So
I know it's
because most
stupid.
people, when they hear that, they don't want to admit they don't fully understand what that is, and they just go, yeah, elemental, man. Yeah, that's deep. Elemental. I'm with you on that. Like I always go, puckwudgies are elementals, and people go, yeah, man, elementals.
Oh my God.
The problem is this. We all know my fear of commitment, my trust issues. It's hard to interpret because I don't trust anything that's from the other side.
I understand.
Right?
Yes.
So I don't know if we've talked about this on air. I know you and I have talked about it, that there was a time period that I really felt my grandfather was trying to get in touch with me. And it was around the time that, for those of you guys who don't know the story, I was contacted back in the day to write a biography, or at least a book, of Butch DeFeo. And with this, if you've read Haunted Objects, if you haven't, don't buy it. Like, let me hook you up with it. He wanted me to write for him. He wanted me to write his story. He wanted me to explore this. This book eventually became The Devil I Know by Jackie Barrett. And weird things started to happen. And I conversed with her. I didn't converse with him, although he would call me late at night. And I started to see shadows in my house. Things started to move. I mean, it was pretty creepy, the whole situation. And it was about this time that I started to get the feeling that my grandfather was trying to contact me. My grandfather being the only person really that I knew that I was close to. One adult that had died in my life that I felt would be genuine, like that I would talk to. You know what I'm saying? Like that he might have a message for me.
Right.
Yet I was so stuck up on this fact of like, that this is not my grandfather. This is something darker trying to get through.
Why? What made you feel that way?
Trust issues.
Trust issues.
Right? Because I've seen dark stuff. And so once you've seen dark stuff and you understand that they can hide in places that you know, how can you ever trust anything? And so I'm really hesitant to give people interpretations of their message. Like, okay, so we're folklorists, right? So we're investigators and we're folklorists. This is the foundation of ghost stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I know I've referenced this survey before, but when I was writing Picture Yourself Ghost Hunting, I sent out a survey to all the investigators that I knew. And one of the questions was, I asked them to define a ghost. What is a ghost, right? And in the definition, right, they said, many of them, I would say at least 50%, half of the investigators that contacted me, that gave this questionnaire back, said that what their idea of a ghost was intertwined with they have unfinished business or they have a message to get through.
Interesting. Which
I think comes from like a long history of that being the folklore of ghosts. That ghosts are somehow stuck here, or that they are helpful spirits that are trying to get something to us, that they have some kind of knowledge we don't have, and that is so stuck into our head that when we experience something, we automatically start to try to analyze what it could mean.
Well, okay, I've got a question for you.
Okay, I've got an answer. I'm glad you asked.
In theology.
Which theological?
Broad
term. I love the theology of broads, by the way. Continue.
Is there, or isn't there, I should say, the promise of knowledge once we pass?
No.
So
I don't know.
Where does that?
Like, what do you mean by that?
So I think that.
So give me an example of what you mean. Like, I can understand, like, a lot of religions have you become one with the universe, and therefore that implies that there's some knowledge you gain.
Right.
But in Christianity, for example, like the people were tarnished by knowledge.
What do you mean tarnished by knowledge?
Well, the whole reason why like we fell was because we ate from the tree of knowledge. So when we started to gain knowledge is when we were thrown out of the Garden of Eden.
But we were alive then. I'm saying when we die, what is the promise of when we die? Isn't it kind of taught throughout different religions? And I think this might just be my ignorance, but I guess it's an assumption that I have, that many religious beliefs have the basis of when you die, yes, you become one with the universe. You are given all knowledge. You are then, I think one with the universe is the only way I can really say it. And so I think with that assumption, that's where it comes from of, okay, the dead can tell us what's going to happen. The dead become psychics.
Well, then why do we need to die then? You know what I'm saying? Like, if they can just pop in and give us whatever information we need for whatever reason, why would we need to die to gain that knowledge?
Because they can't just pop in. Only certain spirits can.
But you see, like, to me, that conflicts.
Like on a different spiritual plane, like a higher frequency, like we talk about all the time, higher frequency spirit can communicate easier. And some are.
No, that's your new agey crap coming on. That's not where I'm coming from. I don't believe it.
New agey crap.
Yes,
pony at you.
I am not spouting Sylvia Brown truths here. I'm not saying she's wrong. But like that, I don't necessarily believe that.
But do you not believe it?
That there's a higher plane.
Do you not believe it?
I refuse. That's spirituality. I'm not talking about spirituality. I'm not a spiritual.
They go hand in hand.
No,
you can't have one without the other.
I think that you can, but I think that.
Wait, what was that question you wanted me to tweet? I can't remember.
I can't remember either. That's why you're supposed to tweet it when I say it.
I was busy trying to do screenshots.
All right, so we now have a psychic in the room with us.
No, we do not. Really?
Yeah, well, at least one confirmed one.
Okay.
So maybe she can offer some of her insight into this. How many of you who are investigators or who touch the paranormal, not the psychic, but other people who do, how many of you expect to get a message? And I'm not, by message, I mean something that is giving you signs or creating a scenario where you need to interpret what is going on, or you feel you need to interpret what's going on. And I feel that this idea, and it's part of what we were working on with Haunted Love, one whole section is based on crisis apparitions.
Okay.
Right? That these people have come back from the dead for a very brief time. Sylvia Brown says, 3 days or whatever, 6 days?
I don't know, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time since I've read that too. And that they give you some kind of message that you need, right? The message that you need.
Okay.
And I think that the popularity of that and the popularity of a settled soul has seeped into the way that we view the ghosts. Like, so in other words, we think that, and this goes back to the idea of the good death, we think that a soul has not found peace or happiness or has not found completion until it gets out all the things it needs to get out. Until it gets messages across.
Or,
right?
Or wait, alternatively, or it delivers the comfort that it needs to give.
And that could be the message. I am safe can be a message.
Right.
Right? If they feel that the people who are there are bothered by where their soul might be.
Well, everybody is bothered by it. Somebody's passed.
I don't think so. Like, I've had people die in my life, and I'm not like, are they in heaven? Are they in hell? Are they in a good place? Are they in a bad place? I just assume that they are.
I don't think that's necessarily what I mean.
Okay, what do you mean by that then?
I mean, when somebody passes in your life that you've loved and you experience that grief, that life-shattering grief.
Okay.
You sometimes need an affirmation that, okay, they are still with me.
And but so that's the message. Why do you need that affirmation that they're still with you?
Because that person is still part of you.
So if they're still part of you, then why do you need a message that tells you that they're part of you?
It's a confirmation. It's the same thing. Everybody needs a pat on the back.
Good.
To let them know that.
So
why we have grades and raises and performance reviews and come on.
But then isn't that how we start to look for things and make signs out of things that aren't signs? Like all of a sudden, and I know that I'm giving, it was just the first example that came to my head, but I know it's a new example, but like the alarm's going off. Then they all of a sudden take on a paranormal significance. Well, and not only a paranormal significance, but an emotional connection to someone paranormal significance, when it could just be a bad battery. But because of the time that it happens in, we put a significance on it that isn't necessarily true.
Well, that, and if it's inexplicable and it keeps occurring. So if it's something like a bad battery, that's going to be happening over and over again. It's not something that's going to happen one time in the middle of the night. It's not. It's going to be happening. It's going to be happening
unless you don't change your battery
until you change the battery.
Okay, so what I've experienced is that battery episode then becomes the TV goes off, becomes, in other words, all these things which could be explained, people put a paranormal significance on because they feel someone is trying to get a message to them.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so this is called the ghostly message. Have you ever read my story, The Message?
I don't know.
That's hurtful.
I don't know.
That's
Remind
hurtful.
me what it is.
It is.
Don't look at me.
Okay,
Stop looking at
wait
me.
a minute.
For the love of God. What is the message?
Wait a minute.
This is bad radio.
It's not, because I'm putting the person in who gave me the story in hopes that she like hears it and comes in
It
and
didn't
talks
tag her.
about it. It did. It's right there, tagged.
Okay.
So she gave me this story years ago. I was still in Massachusetts. And I'm going to give you a very short summary of it. But it's a great story, and for some reason, no one likes it anywhere near as much as I do. Maybe you can tell me why.
Is this the one with the glasses?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking
Okay, but now we've teased it, now I have to freaking say it.
Okay, now you gotta tell it. Okay.
So her roommate's, her college roommate's boyfriend died. And she kept seeing him at night. I'm giving you the very short version of it. She kept seeing him at night and kept like obsessing about it. She'd go to his grave almost every single day. She wouldn't sit in Park's room. Like, she would wake up and she would see him in the beanbag across the room, and it seemed like he was trying to talk, and she couldn't hear him. Like, it was like a TV with its volume turned down. And this kept happening, and she would have her parents like remove everything that he had touched when she would see him these nightly visits, to the point that the dad had to tear up carpet in the house that he had walked on, because she wouldn't even walk on the carpet that the thing had walked. Okay. Until eventually, my friend had a dream. She thought it was a dream, where she woke up and she was talking to this guy, and he was wearing a certain sweatshirt and a certain pair of glasses, and she had never seen him in glasses before. And he said, "I need you to tell her that she's okay. I need you to tell her that I've moved on. Like, she needs to move on. I'm happy. I'm in a good place. It was unfortunate. I'm sorry. He died very young." Right? It's sudden. And so she was sitting with her roommate, who finally made her way back to college, and she had kind of kept this with her for a few months. She was finally with her roommate, and her roommate was opening up about this, and she told her the story about having dreamt about him, and she's like, it was really weird. He had these glasses, he had a sweater, and the girl went into the other room and pulled out, she's like, these are the only things I keep with me, and it was his glasses and his sweater. It was the same sweater. And the power of that is that there is a message that's trying to come through.
Right.
You know, and so I think it's really difficult, because there's a tendency for us to need that affirmation you're talking about. And so we start to interpret things the wrong way, because we need to have it. And maybe that's part of the,
I don't think that's
maybe
fair
that's
to
part of
say.
our grieving process.
I don't think that's fair to say that we interpret things the wrong way. Who are we to say whether or not it's a paranormal sign or not?
Okay,
Unless
so
you're psychic and you have those abilities, or
I don't know. Can I
medium.
hear from any psychics and mediums about this?
Unless you're a medium, I don't think that you have the authority to say, "Oh, nope, that's not a sign from something paranormal."
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I think that I'm not saying that it's not. I'm saying that I think people become consumed, and they allow themselves to be convinced that things are a sign when they're not a sign. Sometimes it's just something happening. Sometimes it's just a ghost. So for the ones we were talking about, the example I was talking about, I don't think that those ghosts are necessarily attached to her son. And she doesn't, I don't think, want to hear that. Which is odd, because I'm like, you're having this other activity, which is very clearly your son. Embrace that. Like, this just seems to be like you got something else going on, because you're in one of the most haunted places in the United States. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Don't stop looking at me.
I know. I have to look at you, because then I'm looking at me, and I get freaked out looking at me. No, I do.
Okay.
Because then I go like, am I looking good? Well, you got this and that. So I think it's, fine if I look like this.
God, unless your Tinder is freaking connected to your
Oh, my
Facebook,
word.
stop.
Enough with the Tinder. But I want to know, so I'm going to read Miguel's question. What of those people who do not believe in paranormal till seeing some kind of message from deceased? And I think that convinces a lot of people that ghosts do exist.
Absolutely.
I'm not. Once again, I think we're so needing it. I got that it was message, brother. I think sometimes you're. It's kind of like if that's why psychics, bad psychics, like fraud psychics, feed off of people who have recently lost someone, right?
Oh yeah,
Because we're desperately
absolutely.
having to have that. I'm not talking about the good psychics we know that we've worked with or that I've met over the years. I'm talking about the charlatans who specifically like go through obituaries trying to gather information and then approach people, like those kind of ones. That's why they're able to do it. And I think that it's because we've been brainwashed for so long that they are going to do that, you know? And part of it is,
what has brainwashed us?
I think ghost stories. I think folklore. I think the
So
idea
folklore
of
has brainwashed.
Yeah, I mean, how else
society?
do we get? What are we doing here at Turpin on Legends if not showing how folklore has brainwashed us to think certain ways about certain things?
Yeah, I guess that's
right. I mean, that's kind of what our job is,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
But I think that we hear so many stories of the person who's killed, who comes back to show where their body is. Right, those are kind of like the first ghost stories we hear.
On a Charmed episode.
It was on a Charmed. See, it was on a Charmed episode. She's working her way back through old Charms after falling in love with new Charm. Falling in love with new Charmed?
No,
No,
really.
just watching new Charmed.
Like trying to compare it. Yeah.
All right, just monitoring so her daughters who are watching are not seeing anything inappropriate.
Exactly.
I guess would be the best way.
Yeah.
You know, right, and it's so popular that Charmed stole it, right? Like, and that's a common theme. And I think that that Judeo-Christian religious ideas are based on peace after you die, right? Heaven,
peace, heaven, yeah. The
versus
pearly gates.
hell.
You're with your entire family.
Right. Well, not my family because your whole family might not necessarily be saved, but you won't care because you're with the people who. And we want to feel, society, individuals within that society, want to feel that that's going to happen to us.
So we want confirmation that that's actually what's on the other side waiting for us.
Well, I think it's the exact opposite. We want confirmation. We want confirmation that there's a way for us to actively do something in this life other than just being good or, you know, doing confession or whatever your religious beliefs are, to get that. Right?
Oh, really?
So if I go to bed every night making sure that my house is in order, not my actual house, because my actual house is never in order, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I've told the people that I love them. It's the reason why every time Devin slams the door when he leaves the car because he's mad at something, I go, dude, I love you. Like, say you love me. Like, this could be the last time we see each other.
Right.
Right. And I think part of the folklore of this final message or of this unfinished business is we don't want to feel as if we'll have unfinished business.
As if we'll come back as
right.
Okay.
Right. Like, I think part of it is built on this desire for us to find peace in death, the good death, which we reference so often, the good death in that I've got everything in order. I've told everyone I love them. I don't need to come back as a ghost because however much there's a small part of people who believe in the idea of finding enough soul revelation that you can come back and help, right? That's what we spent the whole first part of the episode talking about. And we would like to think that I can come back and help my son with something that's tough or it's having a bad day or whatever.
Right.
I think that we mainly want to find peace, right? And so if we've proven to everyone that we love them, we won't come back. If we don't have unfinished business, we won't come back.
Okay.
And that's where those stories come from. But also a desire of if something does happen to us and we do have unfinished business, it's okay, we'll come back.
It's okay, we'll come back.
Do you get what I'm saying? And I don't think those two things conflict. I think they kind of play honest. Like, if I've got everything in order, like, I'm not going to become a ghost because we don't want to be ghosts, right? We want to be peace. We want to be at peace.
Who says that ghosts aren't at peace just because they've got unfinished
Be
business?
at peace. Be at peace.
I think the ghost
evermore.
that hangs around here is at peace. They're just, They're just kind of.
So wait a minute. So
hanging out.
and yet you were thrown by the message that was coming through the radio.
I don't know if it's one individual or several.
So now you're having a party over here.
I'm having a party for
Party
sure.
over here. You think the ghost that bangs at certain times? Do you think the ghost that is banging at certain times, flashing the lights, would seem in response to what we're talking about?
Yes.
Whatever. do you think that goes as sending us a message?
Yeah.
Okay. So
They're trying to be part of the conversation.
Part of our conversation.
Part of our conversation.
You think so?
Absolutely.
You think they want to be the third?
Uh-huh.
Forget me. She's gonna ditch me. I always joke about ditching you. You're gonna ditch me. It's like, hi, I'm Natalie Crist.
Wait.
And I'm the ghost. And welcome to Tripping on Legends,
No, come on,
spiritual
seriously. Think about it all the
So
time.
how do we go about finding that message? Because if the ghost really wanted to get something through and it was enlightened to the point that it could come back, like, couldn't it come up with a clearer message?
No, maybe not necessarily. It's tried several different ways.
Okay, so where is
it.
it getting this enlightenment from? Where does it get the enlightenment from?
It depends upon your individual beliefs.
What is your belief? Where does it get the enlightenment from?
God.
God. Okay, so now God's going to say, I'm now going to allow you
Saints.
to go back.
Spirit guides.
Okay.
I mean, come on.
Okay. I'm going to allow you to
Several
go back
sources
to
of
Earth.
information.
I'm going to allow you to go back to Earth and deliver this ambiguous message, but I'm not going to give you the tools to be able to communicate it effectively.
For sure. Yeah.
Really? Why? What? To what end? To what reason would they do
entertainment?
that?
I don't know.
God's entertainment. So God's laughing, going like, "They ain't getting it, guy. They're not getting it." Do you know what I'm like? So.
No, I don't think,
and here's,
but I think that you're making this too clinical. I don't think there's a channel of communication between the deceased and God, and it's like, okay, you've got this message to deliver. This is how you need to do it. I think it's more free than that. I think that once we become spirits, we're on a different dimension. We're in a different dimension, and we have the capability, if we need to cross different dimensions.
But you don't think that would add a level of frustration that, like, I wouldn't want to deal with in my afterlife?
No,
like, I'm going to say stuff, and you're not going to understand it. So why say it at all? Like, why leave it to it? Well, okay, so for example, so I'm going to shift the conversation a little bit.
Okay.
All right. It's your Aunt Petulia.
I love
right?
her.
Aunt Petilia's off. There's no Aunt Petulia. She grew up in Grosse Pointe.
Yeah.
Right.
Way to blast out my hometown.
What? The GP. And she was a housewife.
Okay.
She supported her
Where are you going
man
with this?
who
Come
was
on.
somehow associated with Ford or some American car maker. She died when she was 68.
Okay.
Heart attack.
Poor thing.
I know. Well, she should have eaten better, taken care of herself. With me?
Sure.
That's the scenario.
Okay.
Aunt Petulia needs to give you some kind of message.
Uh-huh.
She wants to deliver some kind of divine wisdom to you.
Mm-hmm.
How does she know? She's never shown anything in life. How does she know things like knock 3 times?
How does she
know? Mm-hmm. Right. In other words, how does she know the archetypes or the symbols to be able to communicate with you that you're reading to try to get her message? Keep in mind, through everything that we're doing here, Natalie and I seem like we're fighting, but we're just hashing this out. Like, we're not actually, we're not coming from a different belief
system. I see what you're saying. So
like, how does she know that, ghosts
are you going to let me speak?
I was reinforcing what the question was. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I have students that I have to say the question 5 or 6 times.
I'm not a freshman in high school, first of all. Second of all, in my experience with different spiritual messages, they haven't used archetypes. They haven't used traditional methods in order to get that message across. And they've used several different variations of
What do you think the Boston pastor message meant?
The Boston I have no idea. No clue.
Do you know? Like, so why is that coming
My kids
through?
say it's because I need to go to church and my grandmother wants me to go to church. That's what they say.
Okay, but with the amount of so now your so how are you connecting your grandmother to this stuff?
Because they think that's who's in our home.
They think the grandmother was in your house.
Mm-hmm.
So then why isn't she doing things that are specific to her? Or so why would she scratch on the walls? Was your grandmother a scratcher?
Oh yeah.
Seriously.
No, seriously. She had these long nails. Yeah.
Your grandmother was a scratcher?
Yeah. Like this. Yeah.
Okay, I totally think she's lying here.
I'm not lying. She had these long nails, and she would always go like this with them. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But I don't think that was her in the room anyways. That was
okay, it's a different scratcher.
Yeah, different
Okay,
scratcher.
you've got multiple scratchers in this house.
I do.
Okay.
All right, so anyways, let's get off of my specific thing here. Let's get back to the message.
Okay.
I think that, like my kids, for example, take comfort in the fact that somebody that they've loved is still watching over us. That's the message that they want to get. They get comfort from that. Whatever, it's good with me.
Well, I think, and right, and what I'm saying is, I think that reinforces the idea that these things happen, and so we do have that, like, well, someone's looking over you, you know, and it could be someone being like, no, don't eat that pizza, you're fat enough. Like
for sure.
That's what I feel.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like my relatives would be telling me from the dead of, like, we're still disappointed in you. But I think that, see, now, Kristen, now you're in, but I told your story of the message like 10 minutes ago. You missed it, but you can go back and you can get the audio of it and listen to it, and you can tell me. We feel from that. See, I think that's coming from us. I don't think that's coming from the afterlife. I don't.
So, in your opinion, what is the message that people try to get, that spirits try to get across? And when is it a message, and when it is not a message? How do we make that determination? Or that separation? How do we?
I don't know.
As people,
I have. I don't think things would be that mundane. Now, I don't think comforting you and saying that I'm with you and I love you is necessarily mundane, right? But if I'm going just from EVPs I've gotten, because that's the only spirit communication I can talk about that I somewhat trust.
Okay.
The message is never about you; it's always about them, right? I mean, it's every time we've heard a voice from the dead, and not in a selfish way, but they're never like, by the way.
I disagree.
Okay, go ahead. What's your disagreement?
Lydia wanted you to wear the different shirt.
Okay, yes, Lydia had fashion advice. Please visit the episode, but Who's Haunting Lydia, I think is where we looked at that. Episode 30-something.
There you go. And she molested you, too. It was not about her. It was totally about you.
See, I think she was insulting me. I think it was more about insulting me than trying to offer me real fashion advice. And what does she know? She's dead. If she dressed better, yeah, I mean, do you get what I'm saying?
Well,
like,
okay, wait. You have experienced a lot of my.
And wait a minute. And then no, because I want to carry that point out. Okay. And then if that's the case, and that they're so eager for that communication, right? Then why not, when we've turned the tape recorders on here, even right specifically, they haven't been like, thank you. This is so much easier. Go to church. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, why haven't they taken opportunities to
timing?
What do you
There's
mean?
not necessarily around when you're doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, no, but you've done certain things where we've tried to do EVP sessions right after some kind of message seems to be trying to get through at your house. And we don't get.
But we've talked about that before. We've talked about how maybe different spirits can only communicate in certain ways.
Yeah, that sometimes seems like a convenient explanation for that, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're trying to. I think we're more. My perspective is just that I think that we're more consumed with the ghost story that tells us that this stuff happens than it actually being communication. Like, because if that was available, if that was a viable option, then even our spirit guides, if those are true, would give us clear indications of what's going on. Not like, I'm going to give you these signs, which I hope you follow because they're good signs, right? Like, I truly believe that that's the way that they communicate is through signs. And it's us to interpret. Like, it's almost like our job to interpret it. Like, once we interpret it, we have the knowledge to be able to use it.
Maybe that's the only way that they can communicate is offering different signs. That is the only viable option that they have. Okay, number one. Number two, wait a minute. Not every, like you said, there are some spirits, I think they're just strictly looking for attention. So I don't believe everything is a message. I don't think every single encounter is a message. It's up to us to determine, and like you said, to interpret what is a message and what isn't. You've been with me when I've experienced several of my paranormal experiences. What out of the things that we've experienced do you consider a message? The other day when we were recording and the power went out completely just as we were hitting a pivotal point in our discussion.
The pivotal point of the discussion.
Pivotal point of the discussion, right. And the power goes out.
You don't find that as like a, hey guys, you guys are on the right path. That's right.
Well, that's the whole thing is that,
Sacrifice,
like, I have no idea whether it's saying go back or whether it's saying, like, go forward. Like,
Right.
like, I don't know what that means. That's the problem that I have with it, is that not that paranormal activity occurs or doesn't occur, but that it's the nature of it is for us to interpret, right? Like, why can't a tree just be a tree? Why can't 3 knocks on the door just be?
Nope.
Those people knock like that when they knock.
Because that's why we have
Other
free
than
will.
me.
That's why we have the power of free will.
But it's not free will. It's our desire. It's our desire to have something.
We get a clear message from the paranormal side saying, if you don't go back and do that, this is what's going to happen to you. You're going to automatically follow that advice 9 times out of 10. Instead, you now have the power to make your own decisions. That's why we exist.
Yeah, but that 1 out of the 10 is the definition of free will. Right?
No,
that 1 out of the 10 not taking it, you always have the free will, just because it's a really good argument. You have free will to go to work in the morning, right? You have that free will, and 9 times out of 10 you will go to work, right? Or 99 out of 100 times you'll go to work.
But if I had
but that's because you're compelled to, the same way that message would compel you.
But if I had a ghost standing over me
saying to go to work?
Right, saying to go to work, I'm pretty sure it'd be 10 out of 10, right?
Well, I don't know. That's when you conveniently don't believe in the paranormal, and you're like, I don't believe in you. I'm going back to bed. But
no, but
the idea,
honestly.
But I honestly think that, like, you know, that sometimes it's just activity. Sometimes it's just activity.
How do we
like
determine when it's just activity?
I think if it's open to interpretation, then you have to take a step back and not be consumed with what it is. I think that becomes an exercise in what you need, not what the ghost is trying to tell you, right?
But
so
what if you don't need anything?
You feel you need to go to church. You feel that you need to go to a church in Boston. Maybe you need to move to Boston. I don't know. Okay, I know a few places. You feel that, and so when the activity happens, it was just. Miguel, I'm with you. I don't want to think about work either. It's just activity that happens. It's just the station. That was the station that it was on when the power went off. If there could potentially be a paranormal surge causing an electrical surge, and it went on, and it happened to be on that station.
If it was plugged in, I could imagine. I could understand an electrical surge.
Well, even if it's not, if the spirit has energy itself. That it can really
and they're turning it on, and they're just trying to get attention
in
the middle of the night.
Right. But it's your need, it's your guilty feelings about not going to church. It's you wanting to please your daughters who are trying to give you, oh no, mom, it's about this, and not some kind of, or not your grandmother necessarily. And keep in mind, I don't want to diminish the fact that you think it's your grandmother. That's sweet, adorable, and all that kind of stuff. But like, I think that we put that message into it.
But what if
because
we don't
need it, not because they're trying to communicate?
Time out. What if you're experiencing? No, you need to bring it down. You need to bring it down. But what if you keep experiencing things over and over again, but you don't necessarily need anything? What happens at that point in time? Then you have to search for, okay, what are you trying to tell me? What are the things in my life that you could be pointing towards? What if it's a message that you don't know that you need?
That's deep.
That is fucking deep.
That is
take
deep.
That to the bank.
But that doesn't take away the idea of what I'm saying, which is it could just be activity, and we feel the need to put a message on it.
If it's over and over again,
we always need something. I guarantee you, right now, anyone who's listening to this or anyone you come into contact today could have used a message about something. You know what I'm saying? Like, we always need something that we don't necessarily know. Like, hey, just so you know, you're doing a great job. Hey, just so you know, like, that person talks about you behind their back. Like, all that stuff that, we don't know we need it until we get it. And then we're like, oh, wow. But, like, that doesn't necessarily put the significance. That doesn't put a significance on the paranormal activity to be that.
So, okay, it's up to us to interpret. But, again, what if we don't know that we need it?
I don't know what you mean by that. So be more specific. If you can.
Be more specific?
Specific.
You're saying that it is open to interpretation for us as humans to determine when a spiritual encounter is something that is either just for attention or B, a real true message.
I think we need to have a mental check about it. Am I just making nothing out of this? Am I making something more meaningful than it is?
But then do you ignore signs or messages that really could be critical?
Like what?
If you become too skeptical.
Give me an example of it.
The birds that exploded on the windshield.
Right. Okay. Right. What episode was that?
I don't remember.
Was it Singing River? It was a Singing River. So go back Can't remember the episode, but if you look through our catalog, it's the Singing River episodes, the ones without the kids.
Miguel,
We
Miguel
made
is
a
an
lot.
excellent question.
Okay, go ahead.
What if it had just been a rock and roll station? Would you think of it as a message? Yes, Miguel. I think that because it was so sporadic, that it happened in the middle of the night so suddenly, and because it was clearly somebody talking, I felt as though it was a message. If it had been on a rock and roll station, I think I would have taken that as a message too. I think just the action itself,
right,
something happening.
And I've had that happen a lot where people are like, okay, so you're driving, and you hear, and you're like, I really been thinking about Crist, and then like, Radar Love comes on, which is my favorite song, right? And you're like, oh my God, like I had to contact Crist. Like that's a sign, but I don't know if it's a ghostly sign. Like I think it could be like I think we can interpret those signs.
Can we create our own signs?
Yeah, like that's what I'm trying to say. Like I think that we can say like, oh wait a minute, this and this happened, therefore this is what the spirits are trying to tell me.
I don't like that answer.
Why not?
I don't like that
Why
answer
not?
that you can create your own signs.
Why not?
I like the idea.
But don't you
something...
think if it's your filter that's interpreting it, then you can make anything into a sign.
Yeah, you
right?
can make anything.
Like
absolutely.
I got here tonight and you guys were watching Charmed, right? And we just did an episode about 3 witches. So that tells me that I need to promote the episode about the 3 witches because
well, no.
Why don't you? Like, right? Like
yeah,
that's
right, yeah.
So frustrating. All right, we're at the 56-minute mark, so we need to wrap it up.
Have we really delivered any kind of message?
That's deep. And what's the interpretation of that message? Before we go, there's a few things I want to say, a few things we need to talk about real quick. The first is I want to promote the Southwest Florida UFO and Paranormal Conference.
What is that?
So I know we put a blast out. She doesn't remember. I know we put a blast out about that the week that we were signed to come on. But Natalie and I are going to be vendors. It's happening here in Fort Myers. I know we're not in Fort Myers, but it's happening in Lee County, happening in Fort Myers. Mark Muncie's of Weird Florida, and I can't remember the name of his new book, is going to be there. He's one of the primary speakers. There's going to be psychics. There's going to be people who specialize in UFOs. It's not an expensive ticket at all. We're getting
while we're there, can I ask them this question about?
You totally can. So our participation in this, and you can go. It's on our Facebook page. If you go to events, we're going to post it again after we post this show, so you guys can be directly connected to it. Then we're going to permanently put it up on our wall. There's going to be a lot of paranormal people you can talk to, and I have a feeling because we don't have any official responsibilities there. That we're going to spend a lot of time trying to get folklore out of these people and try to get their views on it and maybe record some live show stuff.
Cool.
So thinking about maybe putting us on some panels, stuff like that. Natalie's freaking out that I said that. I can tell in her eyes. But no real heavy lifting other than to be a presence there, sell some of the books, sell some of maybe we're thinking about creating some kind of Tripping on Legends merch. I think that's so cheesy though, but
whatever. I love it.
So I just want to make sure you guys are getting out there and supporting that too. Things like that don't come to Southwest Florida.
Right.
So if we don't support that, then that part of the community here and that part of the interest here is going to go away, right? So we started to see in the last couple of years because people are, I agree, Rob. People believe things when they experience it. That people have been doing Comic-Cons here, and all of a sudden now there's like a Comic-Con like all the time. Like,
right.
We're supporting it, and so you're getting it. So all the people who are in this area who enjoy this, it's not an expensive ticket. You can check the details on our webpage. We'll be sending them out like as part of links in our episodes coming forth now to when the event actually happens. It's really something you guys want to check out.
Let's give away 2 tickets. Let's do a promotion.
Do you want to do a promotion?
I do want to give
like
a
do you remember when I said to give away the book if
Yeah,
people could
I
remember for the last
know.
4 and no one responded.
No one responded.
So we can say right now we'll give out $1 million. And all you have to do is answer this question: who does Natalie think that her is playing with the radio in her room? And we would get no one.
I know.
No one.
No one.
No one.
I know.
We might get a few Facebook responses. Please email us. We're lonely. You can email us at spookytripping@gmail.com, and spookytripping is also our Instagram.
On Twitter, I'm at Nene, my friend.
And I am at Spooky Balzano. The primary way to get in touch with us and to stay in contact and be able to witness great shows like this which we try to do weekly, is to go to Facebook. So it's facebook.com/trippingonlegends. Don't forget the S. Anything else? Oh, yeah, we also have a website too. Yeah, whatever. It's trippingonlegends.wordpress.com. Got a lot of good stuff going on there. I've been posting episodes there, but also interesting folklore stories that I'm finding, as well as like my own writing on it.
If you haven't,
wait, I came across why I'm tripping. Do you remember you wrote like one thing for the website?
Yeah.
That one little brief thing, why I'm tripping or whatever it is.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah, you should do more of that.
I'm raised.
For all that free time you got.
Yeah, all that. This is my free time.
This is your free time. You just spent it. This and Legends of Tomorrow.
That and trying to interpret messages from
Trying to interpret messages. So if you spend less time reading messages, you can spend more time promoting our damn stuff.
Right.
Anyway, thank you for coming in, stopping by. Thank you guys who responded. You can keep this conversation going. You can message us here. You can message us on all those things. What have you gotten that's been a message that you felt was really strong, or what are your ideas about what we've said tonight about the nature of messages? Is it folklore that we're allowing it to do? Is that wanting to interpret it to settle our soul, or is it the conversation that you're having with someone else's soul?
Ooh, good.
I know. Do you notice how I went like that?
Yeah, and on that note,
I'm Christopher Balzano.
And I'm Natalie Crist.
And here's hoping that all your messages
are legendary.
Have a good evening, guys.